In a week's time, the 6th of March, India's iconic warship INS Viraat will end its journey. INS Viraat, that has spent 30 years in the Indian Navy and 27 years in the Royal Navy, will be decommissioned in a grand ceremony at the Naval Dockyard in Mumbai. The motto of INS Viraat, Jalamev Yasya, Balmev Tasya, which means one who controls the sea is all-powerful, reflects the glorious role that she has played to further the nation's maritime goals. The crest of Viraat shows an eagle, which symbolizes air power, and the 5 arrows held in the talons of the eagle depict the ship's versatile weapon capability. The ship holds the Guinness Book record for being the longest-serving warship in the entire world. And despite all of this, there are yet no takers for the beast that Viraat is. No state has come forward to build a Viraat Memorial, something that NewsX is now pushing for.
She's the last British-built ship serving in Indian Navy. She's the last aircraft carrier which has served so long in any navy. The ship was built and commissioned in 1959 and was inducted in Royal Navy as HMS Arms and decommissioned in 1984. Later in 1987, the ship was again commissioned as INS Viraat and served for last 30 glorious years.
It is a very emotional time for the ship, and it is at the same time, that time for all of us who are here on the ship to host all the officers and sailors who have served earlier on the ship, to have them relive their memories for their nostalgia and give a decent and a befitting farewell for the service which the ship has done for our Navy and our nation.
Mr. Chadda, the question here comes at what will be the fate of INS Viraat after 6th March? There are a lot of emotions attached to it. If we talk about it, this was an aircraft carrier. This warship served Royal Navy, now serving Indian Navy. Sir, how do you think the kind of emotional attachment the people has, and what shall be the fate of this Viraat?
See, one is the thing of the personal emotional attachment, which all people who have served on this ship have a very high emotional connect with the ship. Because the ship is a huge ship. It is a ship which has done a lot of service, and all who have become, like they say, once a Virati, always a Virati. That is the personal attachment which will be there. However, as far as the disposal of the ship after the decommissioning is considered, it can't be only on personal emotional attachments. That call has to be taken by the Ministry of Defence based on various factors as to the utility of the ship after that, and to have a detailed study, and based on that to decide what will be the disposal, whether it will be a museum ship, whether it will be a ship which will be used for display purposes, or it will be a ship which will be disposed as a target or in scrap.
And joining me is retired Colonel V.N. Thapar. He's a defense expert Commodore G.J. Singh. Also joining us from Bengaluru, and my colleague Siddhant. Good evening to everyone. Siddhant, to you first. You spoke to the people there as INS Viraat gets ready to be decommissioned. What do the people who've served on board this glorious ship have to say?
Well, I had this opportunity to be on board of INS Viraat today, and I met people and staff there on INS Viraat, and they have a certain emotional attachment to the warship aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier has served Indian Navy for last 30 years, and if we go into the major operations that had taken place, and very successfully Viraat had conducted all those operations. So there is a certain kind of emotional attachment to Viraat, and coincidentally Girish Luthra, the commanding-in-chief of Western Naval Command, is also ex-Virati. So this is a kind of sentiment that I got to see today when I was on board INS Viraat, and when I had word with people and the staff there. So they are quite optimistic, and they believe that this beautiful warship, this beautiful aircraft carrier should be turned into museum, so that the youth of this nation, the people of this nation can can go and visit this aircraft carrier, can be given to understand the glorious history of the aircraft carrier as well as Indian Navy. Well, in many other countries there is a system of converting the ship into the museum, but here in India, because of the cost that comes after preserving some ship is too high, so that is the reason that even Vikrant couldn't be saved and it went into scrap. But while talking, Girish Luthra, Commanding-in-Chief of Western Naval Command, hinted that they are trying their best and the deliberation and negotiation process at ministry level is still going on to save Viraat and to give a beautiful future to Viraat. They are working hard and they are keen to preserve it first, and if nothing happens, then surely the fate is scrap. But yes, at ministry level, he assured us that the ministry is taking efforts to give a beautiful future to the aircraft carrier, and this is the reason that negotiations are still going on at ministry level, and hopefully before 6th March, the date of decommissioning, the decision will be taken. It will be decided. Back to you.
We'll wait for that, of course. We've also opened the phone line, so let me take the first caller before I go to the experts here. Suman is joining us from Chennai. Good evening, Suman.
Good evening. It is really a very sad and sorry state of affairs that the government has no money for looking after INS Viraat. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? See, I have a suggestion. If the government has money for building memorials for Sanjay Gandhi and etc., if they have no money for a ship which has served our country, then I would suggest let them open a fund. I would request the Indian Navy to open a fund. I'm sure every loyal Indian will contribute at least 100,000 rupees, and we can at least make a start in saving this ship for posterity. Thank you.
Thanks, Suman. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. Commodore GJ Singh, those in the government have called INS Viraat our national heritage, but it seems we don't have the money to save it, to keep it for posterity. How sad is that?
It's absolutely sad, because I must say that the future of India security also lies in the coastal security, because the aircraft carriers are always a power projection. They give a projection to the might of the Indian Navy to the rest of the world, especially in the Arabian Sea, the fringe countries of the Indian Ocean, as well as in the East. So therefore, it is of utmost importance that the ship must be maintained as a heritage, because they say that if a man without history or an organization without a history is like a leaf who does not know which tree he belongs to. If we have to tell our future generations that India had a great heritage when it comes to sea and maritime heritage, we must maintain at least one aircraft carrier. In fact, I would say that it is very unfortunate that the INS Vikrant, which was bought by us in 1961, which had the footprints on it of the people like the first Prime Minister of India, the first Defence Minister of India, and subsequent Prime Ministers and Presidents of India who had come there, went to the for cutting at Elan. It was most sad thing. So I do not wish that this particular ship should also meet the same fate, because it is very precious for any nation to maintain at least one ship. Now, I have the information that the Western Chief, Admiral Luthra has said that we don't have space here. I mean, India is such a big country. There is, 7,500 kilometers of coastline when we, count east and west coast of India. And we can't find a place for Viraat to be accommodated in some still waters, if not in Vizag, if not in, Bombay, at least in Calcutta, where we have the river, you see. So there needs to be political will. I would say that we lack political will in maintaining a warship of this stature, which has served us for almost 30 years now, because it was commissioned in the Indian Navy in 1987, and prior to that it has served in the Falkland War as the flagship as HMS Hermes, and it has a history beginning from November 59 when it was commissioned into the Royal Navy. So such a glorious past this ship has got, and I think we should all make efforts, as this lady has just pointed out. We are talking about the shortage of money. India is an emerging superpower. Especially we need to focus on our naval arm, aviation arm, and the Navy, Blue Water Navy want to make it. With just one ship, Vikramaditya, we can't call it to be a Blue Water Navy. We need ships. And we need history. We need to teach our future generations that this is what Navy was, after say 50 years hereafter. It will be something, which will be a piece of, great value in museums. So I think this ship should be converted into a museum or a heritage ship, because we must understand the value and the significance of the history. Unfortunately, we do not try to maintain the at least maritime history, because this is something which you have to focus on in the time to come, because all the nations are focusing on the blue water navies, and we being in this region, if we want to meet the future challenges, I think it is very important that we should have some history behind us. We should have some substance behind us. We should be able to tell our future generation where we belong to, this great country and this great navy. So I think this ship must be converted into a heritage ship, or as the Andhra Pradesh government has proposed, and I think they should take a call on immediately for converting the ship into a hotel come museum kind of a ship where they can generate some funds also, and station it in Visakhapatnam.
Absolutely.
So I'm very of the firm conviction that we should not send the ship to a land for cutting it and for being broken. This will be a most distressing moment for all the naval officers who have served on the ship, like how our officers, the veterans of today, in the Navy, they felt when Vikrant was sent there.
Right.
So I'm of a firm belief that we have the capability, we have the money. If we have such big corporate houses.
We have to find
like
the will.
Banis and Tatas and Birla.
We have to find the will, as you're saying.
We can definitely find it.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes,
absolutely. And before I come to Colonel Thapar, we have one more.
There is will, there is a way.
Absolutely. We have one more caller. Matthew is with us from Bengaluru. Good evening, Matthew.
Yeah, very good evening. It's all in the mind, like what the defense expert was just telling. Where there is a will, there is definitely a way. The matter of fact is the political parties, for their personal benefits, they spend crores of rupees for all these elections. You see in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana itself, the CM spending so much of the public money for his personal vows which he has made. Then you take these scamsters starting from here, Malya onwards. You have all these scamsters who spend, thousands and thousands of crores, put it in Swiss banks and things like that. You have money for everything. You take any aspect you have, there is corruption. There is another one international mastermind who spent 500 crores for his wedding here. And it's like that. So for those things and all, they have got enough of money. But when it comes to something which is of national repute, which is a particular thing which has served us for years and years and decades together, we just don't give any damn respect at all. So it's really sad. So what I would like to say is it's not that India doesn't have money. India has got enough of money. We have enough of money to feed for another 5 to 10 countries. But we need the will. If we need the will, it will not come from the politicians. I'm sure. It will not come because they are more interested in their own vested interest. It should be, I would say that the defense should be given, the army, the navy, the air force, the protectors of the nation, they should not be under somebody's rule. They should be given the freedom to spend certain amount for these kind of things, especially. And I would say that is a patriotic. It has to be preserved at any cost. And I'm sure that even if each person puts 1 rupee, an Indian puts 1 rupee each, I'm sure the money is down the line. It's not that money is not there. It's just that, we need some organization to come forward and take up the
Absolutely.
issue, and then.
Absolutely. Matthew, thanks very much for joining us from Bengaluru. Colonel Thapar, some say that you can't be spending this kind of money for nostalgia, but there's surely more to it than nostalgia. Rich history inspires national pride, and we need to keep that.
No, nostalgia is not the right word for it. Because there is something called traditions, something that motivates people, and this is symbolic. You got an air museum where all types of aircraft are kept. You got the army museums. You got museums all over. Why not for the Navy? And in any case, Palki, what I want to say is that much of the expensive materials of the ship would be taken out, you know. It is already an asset. It can be used elsewhere. Radars, things like that, you know. It is just a symbolic ship there, which people would like to go up to and, you know, be their curiosity is satisfied and they're motivated by it. They're motivated, highly motivated. People go all the way to Kargil, to the memorials to see it, and here is a perfectly good ship available to you, and this bogey of money not being available is not plausible, is not acceptable. So therefore, this ship should be converted into a naval museum, and other things can also be put up, other equipment can also be put up on display, and I'm sure crowds of people will go over there and be not only become the martial or the little bit of military tradition will awaken by going to such places.
No, Indians spend so much money to visit war museums outside this country, so why shouldn't we have some state-of-the-art ones here? With us on the phone line is retired Vice Admiral Madanjit Singh. Admiral Singh, your first reaction when you hear these excuses for not restoring, for not converting something like INS Viraat into a museum?
You know, it's a pity that you hear such amusing comments by people. It's not a question of money. You know, a few centuries ago, when we neglected our maritime power, when India had a footprint in the Asian and Southeast Asian region, primarily because of trade and culture, and we neglected our maritime power, and then the British came and ruled us for 200 years. It is important for a nation to uphold the certain traditions. I mean, we are making a memorial for Shivaji in Mumbai, which at the first estimate is about 4,000 crores. I'm not trying to compare Viraat with Shivaji's maritime, ethos, but I am saying that we tend to neglect certain important nation-building issues, and Viraat, like Vikrant before it, went through the same process. It's not a question of money. It's a question of inspiring the youth, inspiring the maritime. We are a maritime nation. I mean, look at our coastline. Look at the, where we can build up some of these, institutions or some of the traditions. Every maritime nation in the world has, maritime museums to inspire the youth. We don't seem to care much about it. So it will be a pity if she goes to the scrapyard.
Right. It's the last British-built ship serving in the Indian Navy and has served a combined of 56 years for the Navy of both the countries. For those who haven't followed Admiral Singh, I would like you to tell our viewers why INS Viraat is so very special, sir.
Sorry, are you asking me that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, not because it was, built by the British Navy and it was in service with them. It is a symbol of our maritime power. And that, our maritime challenges. And you see what China is doing. They're making a third aircraft carrier. The youth are inspired by the growth of their maritime might. We have a large Indian Ocean. We've got a large coastline. I think surely we also need to inspire our young people, not necessarily to join the Navy or the maritime services, but to be aware of our maritime strengths. And a museum like Viraat, if she were to be converted into a museum, would be one such facility which will inspire the youth. And I mean, that's the main thing. It's nothing to do whether it was in service of the British Navy or by the We are
Right.
making our own ship. We are making our own aircraft carrier in Cochin right now.
Right. Admiral Singh, thanks very much for joining us. My colleague Mohammed Saleh is also standing by. Saleh, we understand that the state government was planning to convert the ship into a floating hotel come museum to promote it as a tourist attraction. What happened? What are the real roadblocks that we are meeting as we talk about restoring INS Viraat?
You know, there are a number of, it's not very clear as to what exactly will be the fate of this ship. But Palki, what I would like to draw your attention to here is that, we at NewsX have started a campaign to try and convert INS Viraat into a museum. So this is the campaign that will actually be, that is addressed and will be delivered to the President of India, where NewsX is appealing to the people that India should convert the decommissioned INS Viraat into a memorial and a museum for our naval heroes, so that the young people can actually learn of their service and aspire to join the armed forces in the defense of the country, and in keeping with the sacrifices the thousands who've served before. So this is essentially a NewsX campaign where we are appealing and we are petitioning to the President. We want more and more of the people. We want our viewers to actually come forth and sign up this petition, so that this then can be taken up by our netas. This, like the Vice Admiral was talking about before, is not a question of money. This is not a question of money at all. It is essentially a question of will. It is essentially a question of getting our priorities right. Do we respect something as monumental as INS Viraat, which has been in service of the Indian Navy for the last 30 years? It was brought into the Indian Navy in 1987, and now, the fate of INS Viraat, it appears, it's still not very clear as to what exactly may happen. But this is the petition that NewsX is actually putting forth, and we want our viewers to join in so that the government actually takes some action for this petition, Palki.
It will be decommissioned exactly 1 week from now, on the 6th of March. I'm going to thank you all, Siddhant, Commodore Singh and Colonel Thapar. Thank you for joining us here, and we will take up this issue again at 8:30 this evening.